Media worldwide is facing crises on multiple fronts, exacerbated by the COVID-19 pandemic. Reporters Without Borders released its 2020 World Press Freedom Index on April 21st, noting that the coronavirus is being used by authoritarian governments to implement shock doctrine measures that would be impossible in normal times. The index shows a clear correlation between suppression of media freedom in response to the coronavirus pandemic and a country's ranking in the index.
Media rights group Reporters Without Borders puts North Korea at the bottom of its index on press freedom for the fourth year running. The North's state-run media have reported 0 cases of the coronavirus in the country. Scientists dispute that claim. The pandemic has seen press freedoms curtailed in many countries, says Reporters Without Borders' Rebecca Vincent.
Some of the states that were already cracking down on press freedom have accelerated those crackdowns now, and others, and actually some of the same states, are targeting journalists who are trying to report the truth about what's happening in their countries and retaliating against those who do. Sometimes we can talk about it in an almost theoretical way, sort of what press freedom means to all of us, but now we can see that actually the absence of press freedom or severe restrictions on it can have, at times, deadly consequences.
Hungary's new laws threaten 5-year sentences for anyone judged to be hindering measures to fight the virus. Journalists say they fear being jailed just for doing their job. Reporters Without Borders says 49 journalists were killed in 2019. The United Nations Secretary General recently voiced his concern.
Journalists and media workers are crucial to helping us make informed decisions. As the world fights the COVID-19 pandemic, those decisions can make the difference between life and death. On World Press Freedom Day, we call on governments and others to guarantee that journalists can do their jobs throughout the COVID-19 pandemic and beyond. As the pandemic spreads, it has also given rise to a second pandemic of misinformation, from harmful health advice to wild conspiracy theories. The press provides the antidote: verified, scientific, fact-based news and analysis. But since the pandemic began, many journalists are being subjected to increased restrictions and punishments simply for doing their jobs. Temporary constraints on freedom of movement are essential to beat COVID-19, but they must not be abused as an excuse to crack down on journalists' ability to do their work. Today, we thank the media for providing facts and analysis, for holding leaders in every sector accountable, and for speaking truth to power. We particularly recognize those who are playing a life-saving role reporting on public health. And we call on governments to protect media workers and to strengthen and maintain press freedom, which is essential for a future of peace, justice and human rights for all.
The World Press Freedom Index illustrates the oppression of journalists from north to south, and the pandemic in its own right seems to have fermented. In Myanmar, Voice of Myanmar's editor was arrested recently and charged with terrorism for interviewing a representative of the Arakan Army, a rebel group fighting for regional autonomy. Even the president of the world's most powerful democracy has described the press as the enemy of the people. Ultimately, the freedom of the press can only be guaranteed by a coordinated global effort, public awareness, and a focus on the long-term advantages of a more critical world. This year's World Press Freedom Day aims to do just that under the theme of Journalism Without Fear or Favour. It calls for awareness on specific issues about the safety of journalists, their independence from political or commercial influence, and gender equality in all aspects of the media. In the words of Albert Camus, without freedom, the press will never be anything but bad.